In this set of lessons, I'm going to walk you through some of the basic moves for playing fingerstyle blues in the key of E. And we're going to start off in this particular lesson looking at how to create a good groove. So one of the basic ideas behind fingerstyle is that your thumb is going to keep the bass going. And in fingerstyle blues, that tends to be a quarter note bass. It sounds like this. Now, if you listen to like the old country blues stuff, it doesn't always have that consistent bass. Somewhere in between what the bass is doing, what the fingers are doing, and the vocals, there's always something that's maintaining the groove. This whole idea of like a steady bass that you improvise over is a little more modern. If by modern you think about like the 60s and 70s and like the fallout from the blues revival. But it's a good way to get your sort of basic coordination together, have a few basic ground rules about what you're trying to do. So we're going to start off with this steady bass. Some people call it the dead thumb bass or the monotonic bass, steady bass. It's all the same thing. Your thumb is going to play quarter notes, in this case on the low E string. And I'm doing a bit of palm muting, which means I'm letting this part of my hand rest right where the strings meet the bridge, so that instead of having a wide open sound like this, it's a little more muffled and a little more percussive. So the bass is just going to be on the count of 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, the fingers are kind of what make the groove happen. And that's because the thumb is just keeping quarter notes going. So now if you count 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and the fingers play all the ands, like if you grab an E here on the 2nd fret of the 4th string and play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now you have a feel. You've got a straight 8ths feel. And that may not mean much, but if you start counting instead with more of a shuffle feel, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and where every beat is kind of broken up into 3 little pulses instead of just 2, and you play with the finger on the last one of those, that set of, so if you're counting a set of 3 pulses, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and now you've got a completely different feel. It's more of a shuffle feel, more of a swinging 8th note feel. And so what the fingers are doing changes the feel, even though the thumb is still just playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So the fingers are really responsible for the groove, but the thumb's got to be steady in the first place to lay down this kind of foundation that you can feel the groove against. So once we've got this basic groove, we can start to play some variations on it, starting with what happens on the 4th beat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so what I'm doing is the right hand is not changing for that first variation. It's just when I get to the 4th beat, middle finger comes over to play the 3rd fret on the low string and does a little bend. You're bending towards this note by pulling on the string to raise the pitch. But you're never actually getting to this sound. You're not bending that far. You're just giving it a little bit of a push. 2, 3, 4, 1. Now the other one that I did was I brought the thumb over to the 5th string on beat 4 and then hammered on to the 1st fret and continued to hammer on to the 2nd fret. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, 2, 3. You speed these up and they're right out of the John Lee Hooker playbook. So having these couple of variations. Next thing we can do is put a lick on the end of the measure like this. And so what I'm doing here is taking the high string, so I'm playing with my ring finger, and then index fingers picking the 3rd string, 3rd fret, and then I'm sliding back to the 2nd fret, then playing the open 3rd string, and then over to the 2nd fret on the 4th string. And the way it fits into the groove is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on the 3rd beat you've got bass, high string, and on the 4th beat a pinch, slide, open, 2nd fret, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and So those are a few variations you can play on the basic groove. And the whole idea here is just to get used to the feel of that groove, so then we start to do more elaborate things with it. You just got that kind of just in your bloodstream, and it just feels natural to play that basic groove. The last thing we'll add right now is a chord move on the top 3 strings. And we'll talk more about this chord shape in the next lesson, but it's basically a variation on an E7 chord voicing, and we've got 4th fret on the 3rd string, 3rd fret on the 2nd string, and the open high string along with the bass. Now you can play triplet feel over all of this, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and what I'm doing here is I'm playing the bass on every downbeat and playing the top 3 strings as well with index, middle, and ring, and I'm pinching, which means I'm grabbing thumb and fingers at the same time. 1 and so after I do the pinch, I play 2 more times with just the fingers. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and now you can do it like that. And go back to the groove. Put a little spin on it so it doesn't feel quite so clinical, you can do it as more of a brush with your index finger. So your index finger is brushing up on the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd string. And it helps if you put your middle finger down in a way that it kind of touches the 4th string. And that way when you brush up, you don't end up hearing the open 4th string if you're just kind of playing sloppy and touching the side of the string without actually pushing it down, touching the side of the 4th string. Then you can kind of brush away on the high string, and you won't hear any more notes than you want to. And if you're doing that, you can also give yourself a little breathing room by not playing the chord right on the downbeat. You can come in on the and of 1. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that way when you're playing the groove, you have a little time get to the chord because you're not playing right on the downbeat. So now we have some kind of call and response things, right? You can play the chord and answer it with just the groove. You could also play the chord and you could answer it with the groove and then go into one of those variations. So you could go play the groove and then So there are a couple of different ways you could practice this. One way is just to go through each move one by one, make sure you can play it, and then just kind of improvise, switching between them. Another way, which is a little more specific and therefore makes you a little more honest about what you are and aren't actually getting, is to make up a specific routine with the different moves once you've got each individual one kind of under your fingers. So you might say, okay, I'm going to start with this chord move, then I'm going to drop back into this with the 3rd fret move, repeat the chord, and then this time I'm going to do the groove that ends with the lick. Then I'll hit the groove with the hammer on, and then I'll do the lick with the notes at the end. I'll do the groove one more time, hammer on, and then if I can do all that, then I'll start all over again. So you've got this little call and response thing, you're kind of making a little 8-measure piece out of it, that's another way to go about it. The most important thing though is just to get a feel for the groove. Make sure your thumb is staying steady, that you've got that shuffle feel with the index finger on the offbeats. And in the next lesson, we'll take that and we'll add in some chords. We'll look at some chords up the neck, some voicings of E7 that take you up the neck that we can add into this and start to open things up a little bit. So that's the lesson. Hope that makes sense. And please leave comments down below, or if you've got questions, things you want to know about, or reactions to the video, anything like that, leave them down below, and I'll see you next time.